All right, let's talk about a problem I'm pretty sure we all have. A mountain of things to read and, not nearly enough time to actually read it. Today, we're going to explore how AI can help us turn that overwhelming pile of pages into knowledge we can actually use.
Yeah? Does that hit a little too close to home? Whether you're a student or a pro, that feeling of being paralyzed by just the sheer volume of information is real. We're always stuck choosing between skimming everything and not really getting it, or diving deep into one thing and ignoring everything else. But what if AI could give us a third option?
Okay, so let's get something straight right from the get-go. This is not about cheating. Just handing in an AI summary as your own work, that's plagiarism, plain and simple. The real goal here is to use these tools like a superpowered study partner, a research assistant that helps you preview, review, and analyze texts on a scale that was, honestly, impossible before.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll dive into that core problem of information overload. Then, we'll map out the different kinds of AI tools out there. We'll look at skimming versus deep study, tackle the crazy idea of analyzing an entire book at once, and finally, we'll put it all together into a workflow that combines your brain power with the speed of a machine.
So let's just admit it. We are all drowning in pages. I mean, academic papers, textbooks, business reports, and don't even get me started on that to-read list that just magically keeps growing. There's just way too much content and not enough time. And that is the central challenge we're going to try and solve today.
Now, here's something you really got to get. Not all AI reading tools are the same. Not even close. You wouldn't use a hammer to turn a screw, right? Well, the right AI tool really depends on the job. The one you'd use for a quick news summary is totally different from one that's designed to analyze a 1,000-page book. They really exist on a whole spectrum of depth.
And here's that spectrum. It ranges from a quick overview all the way to deep research. So, on one end, you've got tools like Blinkist, which are awesome for just grabbing the core ideas of a book fast. In the middle, you have deep dive tools like Shortform, and these are built for actual learning and making sure the info sticks. And then, at the far end, you've got these powerhouse AIs for tackling gigantic documents. And that, my friends, is where things get really interesting.
Okay, so let's dig into those first two levels, skimming versus actually studying. How do you pick? Well, it all comes down to what your goal is for that specific book or paper.
Think of it like this. Blinkist is all about breadth. It's perfect for getting the main ideas from some supplementary reading that you don't need to master. Shortform, on the other hand, is built for depth. It doesn't just give you a summary, it gives you a whole comprehensive study guide for stuff you really need to know inside and out.
So, what really makes these tools a deep dive? It's all the features that are designed for active learning. You get these amazing chapter-by-chapter breakdowns, interactive exercises to check if you actually remember stuff, and even counterpoints that make you think critically. For academics, tools like Scholarcy can pull out all the citations, which saves just hours of work. The point is, these features push you from just passively consuming to actively engaging with the material. But what if your job is even bigger? I mean, think about analyzing an entire book, or maybe a dozen research papers for a literature review. This requires a whole other level of AI power, which brings us to a really important concept for deep research. The secret sauce here is something called a long context window. You can think of it as the AI's short-term memory. Most of the chatbots you might use have a pretty limited memory. They can literally forget what was at the beginning of a document by the time they get to the end. But these models built for deep research, they have massive context windows, which lets them hold an entire book in their mind all at once. To give you some perspective, look at this number, 2 million tokens. A token is basically a word. That means an AI like Google's Gemini 1.5 Pro can hold the entirety of a book like War and Peace, that's over 500,000 words, in its memory at the same time, and analyze the whole thing in one shot. For a researcher, this is an absolute game changer. So how does this actually work? Well, the workflow is surprisingly simple. Step 1, upload your big document to Google Drive. Step 2, load that file into a tool like Google's AI Studio. And step 3, this is where the magic happens. You prompt your analysis. You can go broad and just ask for a summary, or you can get incredibly specific. You could ask something like, compare the author's argument in Chapter 3 with the counter-argument they make in Chapter 8, or pull out every mention of economic policy and sort them by theme. It's incredible.
Now, this kind of power is amazing, but the best way to use it isn't just to type summarize and then walk away. If you want true understanding, your brain has to stay in charge of the whole operation.
See, an AI doesn't understand a text the way a person does. It's just really good at recognizing patterns. And that means it can totally miss the nuance or misinterpret the author's tone, and sometimes it can even hallucinate,
which is a nice way of saying it just makes stuff up. That's why your critical judgment is and always will be irreplaceable.
So the best strategy is what we call a hybrid approach. Think of it like a partnership. You, the human, are in the driver's seat. You're the one setting the goals, asking the tough questions, and making the final call. The AI is your co-pilot. It handles all the heavy lifting, the processing, organizing, and finding patterns at speeds you can never match. A really great way to structure this is the FRAME method. Now notice something here. The first few steps are all you. You find your purpose before you even touch the AI. You read and you record your own notes, then you bring in your AI partner. It can help you arrange your thoughts into themes, make them simple by finding those core ideas, and finally extend your understanding by having it create quiz questions for you or suggest ways to apply what you've learned. So, the big takeaway here is pretty clear. AI is not here to replace reading. It's a research assistant that turbocharges our ability to learn. It helps sift through all the noise so that we can focus our precious time and attention on what really matters, thinking critically and gaining a deep understanding.
And all this leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? As these tools get even more powerful, maybe the whole definition of learning will start to shift away from just remembering information and more towards the skill of asking the right questions, connecting complex ideas, and using knowledge in brand new ways. It's something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.